I didn't think much of it at the time. It was just a small moment, a quiet one. But somehow, that was the exact moment everything started to change. I remember the day clearly, even though nothing about it felt important while it was happening. It was a regular Tuesday. Nothing special, nothing memorable. I was running late for work like I usually was, grabbing my coffee from the same cafe I stopped at every morning. Same order, same corner, same routine. There was a kind of comfort in that repetition. I didn't have to think, I just moved through it. That morning, the line was longer than usual. I checked my phone, scrolled through emails, half reading them, half worrying about the meeting I had in an hour. My mind was already at work, even though my body hadn't gotten there yet. That's when I noticed him. He was standing near the door. Not in line, just there. At first, I assumed he was waiting for someone. Mid-40s maybe, average height, wearing a worn-out jacket that didn't quite match the weather. He wasn't looking at anyone directly, just sort of scanning the room in a quiet, uncertain way. There was nothing dramatic about him. No sign, no loud behavior, just a presence that didn't quite fit the rhythm of the place. I remember thinking, that's a little odd, but not enough to really care. The line moved forward. I stepped up, ordered my usual, and waited near the pickup counter. He was still by the door. Then, for a brief second, our eyes met. It wasn't intense, it wasn't meaningful, but there was something in that look. Something I couldn't place at the time. Not desperation, not anger, just hesitation. Like he was about to say something, but hadn't decided yet. I looked away almost immediately, not out of discomfort, just habit. In a place like that, you don't really hold eye contact with strangers. I grabbed my coffee when my name was called, and as I turned to leave, I passed right by him. He shifted slightly, like he was about to step forward, and then he didn't. I walked out. That was it. At least that's what I thought. The rest of the day went as expected. Meetings, emails, small talk in the break room, nothing out of the ordinary. But sometime around late afternoon, that moment came back to me. Not strongly, just a quick flash. His face, that pause. I remember thinking, was he going to ask me something? And then I brushed it off. People hesitate all the time. It didn't mean anything. Still, it lingered a little longer than it should have. That evening, on my way home, I stopped at a grocery store. As I was walking in, I saw a small group of people gathered near the entrance. Nothing chaotic, just a quiet cluster. There was an ambulance parked nearby. I didn't think much of it at first. Things happen. It wasn't my business. But as I walked past, I overheard someone say, he was just standing there for a while, like he didn't know what to do. Something about that sentence made me slow down. I glanced toward the group, and for a split second, I thought I recognized the jacket. That same worn-out jacket. I stopped. I wasn't sure why. One of the paramedics was speaking calmly, guiding someone onto a stretcher. The man looked weak, disoriented. And then I saw his face. It was him. The man from the cafe. My first reaction wasn't shock, it was confusion. What happened? I stood there longer than I probably should have, trying to piece it together. A few people nearby were talking quietly. I think he collapsed, someone said. Yeah, he looked lost earlier too. He should have asked for help. That last sentence stuck with me. He should have asked for help. I remember feeling something shift inside me. Not guilt exactly, but something close to it. Because suddenly that moment in the cafe didn't feel so small anymore. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept replaying that brief interaction in my head. The eye contact, the hesitation, the way he almost stepped forward. I started questioning things I hadn't questioned before. What if he was trying to say something? What if he needed help? Would I have even listened? And the uncomfortable truth was, I didn't know. I always thought of myself as someone who was aware, considerate. I wasn't rude, I didn't ignore people intentionally, but that day, I did. Not out of cruelty, just indifference. And that realization bothered me more than I expected. The next morning, I went back to the same cafe. Same routine, but it didn't feel the same. I found myself looking around more, not just scanning, but actually noticing the people, their expressions, their body language. I realized how little attention I usually paid. There was a woman struggling to carry 2 bags while holding her phone, a guy tapping his foot anxiously, checking the door every few seconds, a barista forcing a smile, clearly exhausted. All of it probably had been there every day. I just hadn't seen it. Or maybe I hadn't allowed myself to. Because noticing things like that, it slows you down. It interrupts your routine. It asks something of you. And I think without realizing it, I had trained myself not to notice. A few days later, I asked one of the baristas if she knew what happened to the man. She nodded slowly. Yeah, he comes in sometimes. Or used to. Used to. That word hit differently than I expected. He wasn't feeling well, she said. I think he'd been off for a few days. Someone said he hadn't eaten properly. I didn't know what to say. It wasn't a dramatic story. There was no big reveal. Just a series of small things that added up. And one moment where he almost asked for help. Over the next few weeks, something subtle changed in me. Not in a dramatic, life-altering way, but in the way I moved through my day. I started pausing more, noticing more. Sometimes it was as simple as holding the door a second longer. Other times it was asking a question I normally wouldn't ask. Are you okay? Do you need help with that? Hey, you look a little stressed. Everything all right? Most of the time the answer was simple. Yeah, I'm good. Or a quick thank you. But occasionally it wasn't. And those moments stayed with me. I began to realize something about human behavior that I hadn't fully understood before. People don't always ask for help when they need it. Not because they don't want it, but because there's a moment, a very small, very fragile moment, where they're deciding whether it's safe to ask. And that moment can pass quickly. Sometimes too quickly. Looking back, I don't know exactly what that man was going to say to me in the cafe. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. But I do know this. There was a moment where he considered reaching out. And there was a moment where I could have made that easier. I didn't ignore him intentionally, but I also didn't create space for him. And that difference matters more than I used to think. It's strange how we measure our decisions. We tend to focus on the big ones, the obvious choices, the visible outcomes. But lately, I've started to think that the quieter decisions might matter just as much. The moments we dismiss, the people we overlook, the small hesitations we don't respond to. Because those moments, they're where real human connection either happens or doesn't. I still go to that cafe. Same order, same routine, but not the same mindset. Every now and then I catch myself slipping back into autopilot. It's easy, it's comfortable. But then I remember that morning, that brief eye contact, that hesitation. And I remind myself to slow down just a little, to notice, to stay present. Because you never really know what someone is carrying, or how close they are to asking for help, or how much difference a single moment of attention might make. I used to think that meaningful moments had to be obvious, big, clear, unmistakable. But now, I'm not so sure. Sometimes they're quiet, almost invisible, and they pass in seconds. The only question is, when that moment shows up again, will you notice it this time?